What gives gospel music its flair? What distinguishes contemporary or CCM to we taking it to church? Out of all the fancy chord progressions, what puts the gospel in gospel music? There's only one word: dominant. Let's discuss. So, what do I mean when I say dominant? I'm not referring to a person, an individual. I'm actually using it as an adjective that would describe something. So, we have a dominant chord. And so, dominant really means controlling or governing. So, when we hear dominant chord, we just know, some of us may know, oh, this is a seventh chord, and okay, that's C7. But what makes it dominant? Well, hence the name dominant. It means governing or controlling. We're thinking about where the music is actually going and the influence it actually has on the music. Whenever someone is talking about dominant, in most cases they're talking about the fifth degree of the major scale. So we take C, for example. We have C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, or 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So if we're playing everything diatonically, we're not leaving the key of C, playing just all the white keys between C and C. We go to the fifth degree, which would be G. This is the dominant chord of C major. That would take us back to, okay? Now, whenever we play dominant chords, typically it's customary in gospel to play them as a seventh chord. So if we're gonna do, for example, the fifth degree would be G, a 5 chord would become now a dominant 7 chord because we have our F here, which is a dominant 7 or a G7 or G dominant 7. Take us back to 1. The reason why that works so well is we can consider the tritone of the dominant chord. The tritone of G would be the third, which is B, and the flat 7, which is F, or the fourth in the key of C, 1, 2, 3, 4, which is the flat 7 of G, right? So we look at these two notes here. We hear where they want to go. F wants to go down to E, and B wants to go up to C. They want to, don't laugh at my singing, they want to resolve. So because they want to go in that direction, it kind of pushes and forces the air in that direction. Now this works very well if we're in key of C. All right, 5, 1. Those are the most basic things that you're going to learn. When I first learned a 7th chord, because I used to hear about them all the time, I was like, oh, I'm learning a 7th chord, like big hairy deal. It's, the tonic that it wants to resolve to. But it is important because that 7th chord, like I just demonstrated, is going to push us to resolve. It's going to resolve in here and come in to the C and the E. Or if it's F and B, we're playing it like this, it's going to want to resolve out when we invert it. This tritone here is going to want to resolve here. So now we know that fact. And because gospel music is tonal in nature, or it depends strongly on tones, we know that the dominant chord is the strongest progression that we can use to resolve to the tonic. The tonic is the tone. So like in E flat, for example, let's use E flat because I'm going to show you something in E flat. The strongest chord that we have, the most governing chord, the ruling chord that's going to be in E flat is going to be the B flat dominant. Okay? They both want to resolve. Here we have the tritone, B flat 7, and it wants to resolve to E flat. So the power of the dominant chord is that it strongly wants to resolve either up a fourth or down a fifth. And that's beautiful because in churchy kind of gospel music, we're constantly moving in fourths or fifths. So that helps us. The thing with dominant chords is that they actually help to create a new tonal center. So let's take it back to the key of C. If I played C, G7, right, and I went to C, well, it's going to want to resolve here. So, well, what's the big deal? We played this G and it's the same tonal center, right? Because we're playing it diatonically. Whenever we go now and add a non-diatonic tone, the flat 7 in the key of C is actually going to chain us to the next key that we're going to head to. It's going to be up a fourth or down a fifth. So for example, if I played a chord progression in C major, right? I know that C major, let's just establish it. So, and I want it to go to 4 now, I can do, all right, and be up in the 4th interval. The thing is, I'm depending on, when I do that, there's several ways, of course, this is one way. When I do that, with this final chord here, I'm using this leading tone here of E, all right? And go from here to go to F. And it's nice. The problem with it is it leads to it, but there's no other extending harmonies that would actually help me to take me outside the key to add the color that I'm looking for. In other words, if I wanted to go to F, another way and a gospel way to do that would be, say, I'm going to C, all right? And I'm gonna, let's establish the key again. But you see the difference? That last chord, when I played this here, all right, or I'll play this. This chord strongly wants to pull to this chord here. All right, so we did this. I did something else, but this here, and I went here. Well, let's just pretend I did this. So, see, 2, 5, all right, and then we go now to the F chord. The thing is with this here is that this here, this B flat now introduced in the key of C major would give me C, what's called C mixolydian. So now we have a new mode and a completely different chord set that we can actually use. And this B flat is what gives us the chain. It pushes us forward. It makes C, the very first chord in C major, dominant. Instead of just a major 7 chord, we have a C7 chord. So now with this 7 chord, we're implying, well, something else, because this B flat is not in the key of C, it's in the key of F. So if we have this here, it's way more powerful to resolve to F. F is in the key of C. It works as the 4th, but how do we get there? We use a dominant chord progression. So now, introducing the dominant chord progression, I actually have another video here that talks about what I want to talk about, and it's called the subdominant. The subdominant, or the secondary dominant, subdominant, is taking any tone that you would have and making it the leading tone by adding the flat 7 to it. So in essence, we have our primary dominance and we have our secondary dominance. The primary dominant chord, like say in the key of E flat, will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's the 5th interval, and it wants to take us back to the tonic or the root of that actual scale, the major scale. And we have the secondary dominance. The secondary dominance basically is, if I said I was playing in E flat, and I made E flat dominant, I put the D flat in there that belongs in A flat diatonically. I made E flat, in essence, a dominant chord. And that takes us to the A flat, but I made it a secondary dominant. It's not a primary dominant because there's no D flat in the key of E flat major. Although secondary dominant chords, they're still dominant, like this E flat dominant in the key of E flat major, but it creates a bridge, or it chains the first key or the first tonal center to the second tonal center. Without it, we don't have the color that we're looking for to create or to make the gospel music that we love so much. So let's take a look at a song. I'll do Jesus I'll Never Forget. It kind of dawned on me that you may not actually know the song. So I'm going to play a demo of the song that I'm talking about. Then I'll go on to do the concepts and how they apply to something like this. So. I'll do it in E flat, right? So we're going to look at 3 elements here. We're going to look at the melody, we're going to look at the harmony, and the dominant chords. So with our melody, we have, so we know that. So with the harmony, we'll have our harmony if we had a 3-part harmony, or just playing chords or triads. Now, with the dominance now, we can actually take those same melodic patterns and incorporate a different type of harmony, or a more gospel feeling type of harmony. So I wouldn't play it like just, straight vanilla. So what I would do for that first part here, I would take it and I would do something like this. Let me bring the register up a little bit. So for something like that, the way I got that, I went same melody, right? All right. This here, well, it looks like an F chord, or yeah, if I play it like this, it'll be F chord, a flat 5, but that's not what I'm playing. Because if you look at my left hand, it looks like an F chord, but I'm playing actually parts of a diminished chord that goes from here. All right, and then I go now and I make the chord dominant. So first of all, diminished chords always want to move forward. They always want to be resolved. You're not going to have a song that's going to have a cadence ending in a diminished chord. It's way too tense, but it wants to resolve someplace, either up or down. All right. Normally, it wants to resolve in half steps. So we have this here. This is actually this tritone here. FB wants to resolve up to here. So what it does basically when we have this type of music, we have wants to resolve to this here, this tritone. Remember, like I said before, in the key of C, wants to resolve from here, and it wants to resolve to here. We can either do E here, or we can do it up a half step. Okay, we're not gonna be playing, well, this. That's not what we're looking for. It's way outside of the key. It's too close to E flat. But the point here is that once we do diminished, all right. Okay, now we resolve to here from the G chord. This is actually G chord. All right, we resolve it to the A flat 7 rather, and we can keep the same tritone here because we have this, another diminished chord, and we could resolve on the tonic over the 5th. This works over the 5th because again, dominant chords want to move up a 5th or down a 4th. So B flat would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Okay, or this is where it wants to stay. This wants to go here. There's a couple of other reasons that I'm going to get into in a minute why that actually works based on a scale. So now we have diminished chord. I don't have to play the entire chord out. You can even just play this. All right. All right, and then we have our A flat 7, climb and go to the diminished, to go to B flat, right? But it's not a B flat chord, it's A flat over B flat, so still a E flat chord. But I'm just showing you the harmonic structure and how it can actually change, or how much it's influenced by a 2-5-1 chord movement, all right? And now we can continue with that same pattern. So instead of going, what we could do is this, and take out the vanilla and put some sprinkles or some Oreo cookies in there. We can do all right, what I did here is very simple. E flat, all right, B flat diminish. Again, we're making a secondary dominant chord out of the G here. So typically you would have a bass player would do they would do something like E flat to a G to a C, or you can do a 2-5-1. But in either case, you're still gonna have a dominant G to resolve to a C minor. If I didn't say this before, I'll say it now. The 5th interval of the major or minor key diatonically, major E flat, 5 would be B flat, or the minor key, the relative minor, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, dominant, wants to even make a stronger pull, because B is outside of the key of E flat major or C natural minor, okay? Hope that makes sense. So in other words, what we're doing, we're using a dominant chord to get us to the C as we walk up. Jesus, I won't forget. Now we use another dominant chord, because remember what I played before. Or we ended up here. And again, with gospel music and dominant chords, they want to move forward, either up a 4th or down a 5th. So if we have this chord that we're landing on, all right, this gives us the pinnacle. Jesus, I won't forget how you set me free. This is the top of the phrase. To resolve back to 1, we can do another dominant chord before it. So we go from the F major, right? The F dominant, I'm sorry, to go to B flat. So that's the dominant that precedes it. So F, 1, 2, 3, I keep hitting the wrong note. 1, 2, 3, 4 wants to resolve up a 4th, or rather this. So rather down a fifth, which would be E flat. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 1, 2, 3, 4. So again, I'm ending the song. So F dominant to B flat dominant, B flat dominant. Right. So the melody. And now we can walk down. So what we did there, we just went E flat, B minor, and then B flat minor, minor ninth. We resolved it to the E flat, going to the A flat. So again, 2, 5, which is 5 for A flat, is E flat 7. So it wants to go here. And now we want to make the A flat dominant chord because we want to move somewhere. It wants to be resolved. Okay, so what I did there was just basically went from the same thing we did before. Jesus, I don't forget. No. F2, F flat 9, right? Flat 9 here. And as I stated earlier, this here comes from the E flat major blues scale. So, because you can go very vanilla sounding, so you want to use that because it actually goes along with that old school movement that people usually do. So 2, 5, 1, or we just can continue. Anytime you have a phrase like that, you can do just go down to your 2, 5, 1. So it would sound like all right, that's how it would end. That's the whole position of that actual phrase. Or if you're gonna play the chords out, you would have or so if we play the whole phrase out with just the melody, that part would be okay. That's how that works, because basically it's just 3 chords along that line, and you have those kind of licks or runs. They actually outline the chords that you're playing. You just hear that, you hear the chords. Chords are lines and lines are chords. I hope that's brought some more clarity to you in understanding how dominant chords actually work with gospel music. I do get into more detail at my website. You can check out my free guide. It's called What Do Pro Musicians Know That You Don't? I'll leave the link in the description. It's at gospelprogressionsuniversity.com/gospel keys pro. God bless you, and I will see you in the next video.